Our next speaker is Ylitalo. She has been a middle school teacher for 4 years, a high school teacher for 1 year, and Lansing Community College for 7 years. Currently, she is a STEM teacher in the Ashley Community School District. Let's all welcome Holly.
Good evening. Okay, so as you heard, I've been a STEM teacher for a very short time, so I'm not going to tell you probably anything that you don't know already, but I'm going to be up here as a cheerleader for change, kind of like our last speaker was. So engaged and creative students, you can see from the pictures in my classroom that those kids are focused, they are learning, and they are discovering for themselves. I'm not feeding it to them. So how did a stagnant math teacher end up here? Okay, well, you heard my resume. Why did I keep changing levels? Well, I knew that I was going to be stagnant. My mom was a teacher, and my grandpa was a teacher, and my aunts and uncles, several of them are teachers. And I knew what a stagnant teacher was. So after teaching middle school for 4 years and doing the same 7th and 8th grade math, I felt very stagnant. And I said, you know what? I can't take algebra one more second. I'm going to go and get a job at a high school. So I go teach at an inner city high school because I'm going to make a difference and I'm going to have a change in my career. And I get there and guess what? They want me to teach algebra. And not only is it just algebra, it's the algebra that I taught at the middle school level, the same book and everything. So very discouraging. So then I said, you know, I finished up my master's and I said, oh, I'm going to take the leap and I'm going to go to post-secondary. So I got a job at the college level and lo and behold, I'm teaching developmental math, which is algebra. So despite my attempts at not becoming stagnant, I was becoming that stagnant math teacher that knew all the misconceptions, knew exactly what was going to go wrong, knew just where it was happening, so I could stop it at the pass and I could just be this awesome math teacher, which I feel I am. The problem with that is, you know, you get too comfortable where you're at. So here I am teaching the college level for 7 years, and I got all my PowerPoints all nicely made for each unit and each lesson, and each one's timed out just right, and I know exactly problems that they're going to have problems with so I can stop them. And I'm getting great reviews. I mean, my idea ratings at the college are through the roof. Rate my professor. They love me. Why do they love me? Because I'm feeding it to them. I'm giving them everything they need, prepackaged up in a bow. They don't have to even think about it, right? So what changed? How did I get from being a math teacher to being a STEM teacher? Was I took a leap that I've been telling my students to take all along. Do something that you think you can't do. So when I was young and I was going to college and when I was going to high school, I always tried for everything. I tried everything. I went for awards, I went for different things, and most of the time I was successful. So, but when you get in your comfort zone and you've been doing algebra and algebra only for 13 years, you start thinking that you're good for nothing but algebra, right? So what happened was I got an email, and it was from CMU, and it said that they were looking for professors to come and join in this research experience for teachers. And so I kind of went around with myself and I said, oh, that sounds really cool. You know, as a high schooler, I almost went into engineering. I was getting ready to sign with Kettering, but I ended up not. I went to Michigan instead for teaching. And then I said, well, it's been so long, I probably can't even do it anymore. It's probably way over my head now because all I know is algebra. I don't even know if I could do a calculus problem right now. So what if everyone thinks I'm dumb? And then I just kept going around and I'm like, you know what, it sounds fun, it's during the summer. It would be a great thing to see what it was, and if I'm looking really stupid, then 6 weeks later it won't matter because I'll never see anybody ever again. So I went for it, and I'm super glad I did. It was a great experience, and it really helped to break my boredom and my stagnation in my teaching. As you can see from the pictures, it wasn't all research, it was a lot of fun. We got to do a lot of different experiences that I have never experienced before. You can see me there with the VR goggles on, and we got to create our own VR environment. We got to engineer different prototypes. You can see the cardboard prototypes in there, and real prototypes. You can see the steering wheel in their hands. They made a steering wheel that had that could read your blood pressure. So, I mean, it was a really great time. We did a lot of fun things there, but it wasn't just all fun. So half the time we were researching, and half the time we were in a classroom learning from Beth Christensen, who is a master at the Next Gen Science Standards, who came in to teach us. So during our stay, the half the time we were researching, we were split off into groups. So each of our groups had a professor, engineering professor, a secondary teacher, a pre-service teacher, and an engineering student. And the 5 of us had these projects that we were all working on. Mine happened to be nanotechnology, and I happen to have a computer science minor, so the computer simulation was right up my alley, so it wasn't as intimidating as it could have been. The other ones were very hands-on and more electronic, and they would have been a lot of fun too, but what we did was research the different types of like titanium, aluminum alloys that we could simulate on this dynamic program where we could make a block of it in the various layers that we wanted, and then we'd run an indentation test to see if it held those properties that we wanted, like self-healing and strength. So we did that for half the time, and the other half the time we learned about the Next Gen Science Standards, and we also learned how to implement various student-centered learning into our classrooms. Beth did a great job of bringing in experiments, and me being the only math person there, I kind of fell out of place again, but it was okay because I just kept focusing on how that could relate to my math curriculum and or the Common Core, because even though I was teaching secondary, I kept relating it to the high school level as well. And I love learning, and a lot of people probably would have went in there and goes, oh, this is no use to me, you know, I'm a math person. But I didn't. I love learning, and so I took it to heart, and I tried my best to learn about these three-dimensional learning practices and the engineering standards that they want us to implement. And what I really came away with was the student-centered learning, okay? Because what I've been doing is pre-packaging everything for my students all up in a pretty bow and calling that teaching. Well, they're not learning as much as if they can construct that knowledge themselves, because then they can make all those neural connections, as you know, to that specific thing. So we did a culmination project. I know you can't read this, I apologize. But we made posters, and we had a poster event at the end where we had a gallery of posters, and our coworkers and our family and friends, and everyone could come and view and see our projects, which of course ours was a computer screen, but that's okay. So when we were there, it wasn't all success. Of course, many of the layers of nano coatings just immediately burst, and a lot of the ideas that we had didn't work. Some of the different projects we tested out to maybe use for a STEM day, like mousetrap car. I'm sure you guys have all seen that. Well, I worked with a friend that was also working there, and we were all excited to go run our mousetrap car. We went out in the hall, and our car flipped over, okay? Failure, but we learned from it. We went back, did some redesign. We went out back there, and it went about 2 inches. Pretty impressive. But each failure gave us a success that we could take away and say, well, that's how our students feel, right? They're not always successful first time around or the second time around. But it's more important for them to have tried and failed than it was for us just to give them the answer, okay? Because we're creating that knowledge ourselves. And it was like it was meant to be. So learning, meeting all those new people and networking out well beyond my zip code, which Mount Pleasant was like an hour and a half away from my home. So now I got all these new people in my network that I would have never had before. And they encouraged me. They're like, well, it sounds to me like you got into the post-secondary for the wrong reasons. It sounds like you really liked working with the children. You should go for another job. My school's hiring one, the guy says. And so I'm like, oh. So I get online, and I didn't find that job, but I found this job at Ashley. And Ashley is actually like one of the smallest high schools in Michigan. In fact, their graduating class only has 12 seniors. So it's a very small building. It's K through 12, and you walk in the front door of the high school, and it looks like a normal high school, and you go around to the other L, and there's the elementary school. So, I mean, it is very small, and very nice, cozy family there that I've found. And attached to my room, which is really awesome, is a workshop. And so not only can my students design and plan, but the unique part about my situation is we can actually go and create. So I feel really blessed in the fact that I got that at my school, at my disposal. So you can see I'm working in the workshop. Also, like some days I'll just go in and I'll do a warm up, and I'll just dump a handful of Legos on the table and tell them they have to make something that's useful, okay? I had a board member walk in during that activity with the 8th graders, and he said, you know, this was at the volleyball game that night, and he said, I've never seen those 8th graders so into what they were doing. And I said, it's not me, it's the Legos. You know, I have nothing to do with it. But, you know, just engaging them to create and think on their own is something that they're not used to anymore. They would much rather have you prepackaged and tell you exactly what they need, because they're not growing that way. They're staying in their comfort zone like I was. Okay? But we need to get up out of our comfort zone, and we need to keep pushing them. This was something that we got to do. We had sponsored a tailgate for the Michigan State rivalry, and each of my STEM classes, like in their pairs, designed tailgate games, and then they went and built them. And then one group from each of the STEM classes designed a grill for grilling hot dogs for the tailgate. And so they did all this design and process on their own. And, you know, I've never been a shop teacher. Come on, algebra, right? So it is scary to get outside your comfort zone. And when they're using the saws, and I'm just like, oh, please, dear God, you know. But, you know, they really do appreciate the fact that you are trusting them also, you know, so they can grow. This is another thing that's happened because of me coming out of my comfort zone. My students have benefited from it in various ways in the classroom, and also this was an event that we held at CMU for STEM Day for our classes to come and enjoy the engineering design process. And they had to engineer these devices to save the animal from the island that had the toxic waste around it, so you couldn't touch, you know, the tarp. And everyone had a great time doing that, and meeting people from other schools and stuff was fun. So they got to, you know, get that benefit out of me coming out of my comfort zone as well. Another benefit for the whole school was, you know, the tailgate. We had the whole school come. So the little kids got to see what the big kids were making. Also, another thing that they benefited from was my classes held a STEM day. and I don't have any pictures on here, but we invited each of the elementary classes in to do a STEM project, and I had my students teach them, or not teach them, but lead them in the STEM project. And so it's my choice to come out of my comfort zone just keeps reverberating around. So the greatest mistake in life you can make is the fear that you're going to make one. And thank you.